WCBI News at 6 starts now.
Good evening, everyone. A dive team, cadaver dogs, and Lowndes County deputies returned to where a human skull is found and another bone is found this week.
Columbus Fire and Rescue divers searched a pond on the property just off Hughes Road today. The group went in the water after GTR K9 cadaver dogs searched the area. Investigator Greg Wright says investigators were called back to the home yesterday afternoon. A dog apparently brought the bone to the homeowner. Now, just last month, you may remember, deputies went to that same house after a human skull was found at the same location. At least 5 acres was searched today. Coroner Greg Merchant says the investigation to identify the remains continues.
The Prentiss County deputy that found a missing 70-year-old man in the woods earlier this week says he was just doing his job when he tried to calm the man until emergency crews arrived. Deputy Joey Clark was the first to find Lonnie Hopkins. Hopkins was traveling from Wheaton, Illinois to Biloxi. His car was spotted in rural Prentiss County Sunday. Clark found the elderly man in a heavily wooded area off of County Road 3421.
He was cold. He was partially clothed, so at that time I began to put clothes on him, just laid down beside him, tried to get him warm, and after a few minutes, everybody found me. It was a relief seeing all the people show up. It was like the cavalry coming in, people I'd never seen before, showing up from different search and rescue teams.
Hopkins died Monday evening.
The police department is continuing to look into an unsolved hit-and-run death of Barkus Evans. The Starkville man was found lying in the southbound lane of Highway 145 in August of 2016. Now, nearly 2 years later, investigators are still trying to find the person responsible for Evans' death. Coming up tonight at 9 and 10, we'll hear from Macon Police on where the investigation stands and their biggest roadblocks. Our Quentin Smith will have that story.
A Prentiss County Electric Power Association lineman is killed as he tries to restore power to homes after last night's storms.
WCBI's Allie Martin has more on the accident and the dedicated employee who leaves friends, family, and a wife who's 1 month away from giving birth to twins.
It was around midnight when Jamie Guin and a co-worker were dispatched to this downed power line off of Highway 30 West. Guin's bucket truck couldn't access the area because of the steep and muddy terrain, so he put on his safety belt and climbed to the top. Moments later, the other lineman, who was working on the ground, was startled by a loud sound.
And he turned and looked to the pole where Jamie was, and he saw Jamie slumped without any movement to his body away from the conductor. And so he knew Jamie was in bad trouble.
Ronnie Rowland is general manager for the Prentiss County Electric Power Association. He broke the news of Guin's tragic death to office workers. Rowland says the 36-year-old had worked at the electric cooperative for 13 years and rose through the ranks.
Jamie was a model employee. When you gave him a direction, he gladly did it with a smile on his face.
OSHA has been notified and will be on scene to conduct its investigation. In the meantime, the community, family, and friends of Jamie Guin are in mourning over the death of a husband who was looking forward to being a first-time dad.
Certainly she's got some really hard days ahead. She was only about a month away from having their first children, which were twins.
Rowland says Guin's widow, friends, and family will need a lot of prayer in the coming days, weeks, and months. In Prentiss County, I'm Allie Martin, WCBI News.
Although there's no official cause for the accident yet, Rowland says it appears Guin thought the power line he was working on was de-energized.
High winds uproot trees and causes damage in Union County last night. This video was taken of a workshop there. Some of the heaviest damage from the storms was reported in New Albany and Union County. The line of storms also scattered debris throughout the northern part of our viewing area. No injuries were reported in Union County.
Well, you first saw the video last night on WCBI's The CW4. A couple rescued from a duplex in Eupora. High winds are being blamed for knocking down the tree that fell on the roof of the building. The couple was trapped beneath the tree while a third person ran in to help. Firefighters used heavy equipment to get the victims out. Today, crews were there cleaning up the downed limbs. The storm victims were all rescued through the second-story window.
It was just us two and our dog, our big dog. Our puppy was out there on the porch when all the commotion was going on. That's why we didn't think he made it. But soon we came home from the hospital, he came running to us and I just broke out of tears.
It stopped falling halfway up in there, like about right up in there. So we were pretty good. Time it stopped happening, I started dialing numbers because it caught on fire in there somewhere and we trapped. I don't know if it's going to burn the house down. I don't know if she's going to jump off this roof with me or what, but I know I was trying to get out of there.
And the couple did have some minor injuries, and they seem to be doing well. They kind of chuckled at it a little bit.
Yeah, that's tough and scary.
Yes, indeed.
And when a home is damaged, it leaves owners wondering about their coverage.
That's right. Mississippi Insurance Commissioner says most people believe their homeowner insurance rates will spike, but that is not always the case. Our Jory Talley joins us in the studio with more on that.
It all depends on the type of weather that caused the damage and where you live, but the commissioner says rates are very stable in our state. When a severe storm rolls in, the damage starts rolling out. Mississippi Insurance Commissioner Mike Chaney says generally speaking, tornadoes don't affect homeowner rates.
Tornadoes are very narrow in effect, so they don't affect a large area rate-wise. Now, they affect a very small area, very destructive when you have a tornado. Smithville would be a good example, which happened several years ago. But they don't affect rates that much. They do for some carriers that may be concentrated in those areas simply because they have an agent that writes a lot of people.
Tornadoes might not hit rates hard, but other storms will. Hurricane Katrina is one storm that spiked rates after it hit back in 2005.
What really affects your rates are forest fires, hurricanes, I'm talking about on the Gulf Coast, storm surge. Those are the things that affect rates throughout the state.
Where you live can also change some things, especially if you live in a
the
weather-prone
water has
area.
to go.
In Oklahoma, you had some spikes because they had so many tornadoes.
When the 2014 tornado ripped through Louisville, it destroyed the Winston County Sheriff's home. Sheriff Jason Pugh and his family lost everything. Luckily, their home was insured through Alpha.
Everybody hates paying for their insurance. You know, everybody hates writing that check every month or every 3 months or every year. I used to hate writing that check. I was very glad after that storm that I had written that check to him. And those are the times that it really pays off.
The sheriff said he had no trouble being covered after everything happened.
My only thing I guess I would caution people to do, we were just talking about it before we went live, is to reevaluate their homeowner's insurance, because obviously the cost of building now may not be the amount of insurance you have.
The sheriff suggests everyone sit down with their insurance agents and really look at their coverage and make any needed changes.
All right, Jory, with some good advice there.
Indeed. All right, let's turn things over to Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson with a calmer first look at our forecast tonight. Keith.
To see the sunshine return today, much cooler behind the front that moved through with those storms. 56 currently at Tupelo, winds from the northwest at 11 miles per hour. Over the last 24 hours, we've gone from the 80s down into the 40s, back into the upper 50s in Tupelo. And tonight in all areas, we're down into the mid to low 30s, so it will be chilly. Mid-50s north, low 60s south right now, down into the 30s later tonight. It will be a cool evening and a cold night. A frost or freeze is possible. The full forecast in just a few minutes.
Renewable energy is gaining ground, and one source lighting the way for inexpensive renewables has been solar power.
Yes, but the cost of the panels needed to make the energy has just been increased. Our Parker King talks with a solar energy provider and joins us live with more.
President Trump recently implemented a 30% tariff on all imported solar panels, and those imported solar panels make up about 80% of the total solar panels in our country. His motive was to create jobs and bring solar panel manufacturing to the U.S., but companies are divided on the issue. President Trump's recent tariff placed on all imported solar panels is raising costs and concerns.
I think it was opposed by most of the companies that are solar manufacturers in the U.S.
Companies within the U.S. that create panels as compared to the ones that install are divided on if the tariff is beneficial or not.
It may have some good results for the solar producers, but most developers do not see it as a good thing.
The tariff has the solar industry as a whole predicting a loss of 23,000 jobs. Synergetics in Starkville is home to one of our area's largest solar panel farms, with panels in Oktibbeha County and on top of the roof of Synergetics' main office. And CEO David Palmer says none of their panels are made in the States.
Some of our panels have come from China, and some of them have come from Canada. I don't think we have any U.S.-made panels.
Synergetics plans to expand to other locations. And even though the price is higher for these panels, it's not going to stop Palmer.
It's not going to impact the fact that we do plan to expand and build additional solar farms, but you know, it will increase our costs, and that would lower our return, but it also increases the tax credits and the tax incentives because the project costs more.
The tariff is not here to stay forever. Over the next 4 years, that tariff is going to decrease from 30% to 15% and eventually zero. We're live outside at Starkville. Parker King, WCBI News.
It's okay to get a few things wrong as long as you get most of them right. That's a lesson from one area teacher.
We meet our educator of the week when we come back.
Welcome back. It was the shot felt around the world. 50 years ago today, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. was killed by an assassin's bullet on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. Across the nation, there were demonstrations and riots as people mourned Dr. King, but for others, like Oktibbeha County resident Yvette Williams, the loss was felt very personally.
I was a girl at that time. I was 12 years old. At that school where I was, people, it was just kind of glossed over that Dr. King had died. But when I got home, the full, I guess, weight of his death and what it meant, that it's time to take action.
King was only 39 years old when he was assassinated, but his work had already earned him international acclaim, including a Nobel Peace Prize.
The odds are you use probability on a regular basis. That's one of the lessons being taught to students at South Pontotoc Middle School. 7th grade math teacher Andrea Brown is our educator of the week. Brown likes to use hands-on experiments to get her students involved and to show them how to apply the concepts outside of the classroom. Even if they don't always get the right answer, there are other lessons learned.
I want them to know it's okay to mess up as long as we keep going, keep trying, and that I love the relationship I get to have with them. I like to get to see them learn things and finally get something, and that's why I'm here, them.
To nominate a teacher, visit WCBI.com.
And the probability of rain tonight is 0. The probability of cold air tonight is 100%. We are clear. We will have lows down into the 30s. A frost or freeze is possible. That's a live view at Durham's and Vernon, Alabama. The full forecast is next.
WCBI's Educator of the Week is brought to you by Food Giant, where your neighbors are the owners. Your first alert forecast with Chief Meteorologist Keith Gibson.
All right, here's our forecast for this evening. Right now, all quiet in Columbus, mostly sunny, 59 degrees. It's a bit blustery out there, a bit cool, much cooler than where we were some 24 hours ago in the Columbus area. We were in the 80s, and over the last 24 hours, we really cooled down, and it gets even cooler tonight. Temperatures in the mid to upper 50s across northern Mississippi and Alabama right now. High pressure coming on in. The storms and the clouds we had last night well off to the east, so rather benign weather for the next 24 to 48 hours here, it would appear. Mid to low 30s are forecast lows tonight, and that's cold enough to support a frost, maybe even a light freeze. Official freeze warnings now from Grenada to Columbus north. No official advisories farther south, but let's just say we all have a chance for a frost, and some of you may see a light freeze later tonight. So protect those tender plants if you are concerned, if you have some of that growth already in your garden. Thursday, though, a lot of sunshine, 41 at 8 o'clock, 58 at noon, 67 or so, our forecast high average at 4 o'clock. Some of you will stay a little bit shy of that in the mid-60s, some of you pushing the upper 60s, but a lot of sunshine for our Thursday. And don't forget programming weather radios again this Saturday at the West Main Kroger in Tupelo, 10 to noon. And it looks like we'll have some cool wet weather for Saturday morning. And our next Storm Spotter training class here in the region will be April 17th in Columbus, 6 o'clock at the Lowndes County Emergency Management Office. So it's always wise to be prepared before the storms, and it's always nice to know exactly what storms can produce, and those spotted training courses are the real deal. You may want to check that out. Now, speaking of storms, Friday evening, Friday night, we actually have parts of the area in this marginal risk for some severe weather. The bullseye back to our west and southwest. Now, we could see some gusty storms here as we close out the week with our next front coming on in. We'll be watching out for that. But it does not look like a robust event like what we could have this time of year. Of course, we'll just see how things play out. Tomorrow, a lot of sunshine. Clouds build back in during the day Friday, so there will be an opportunity for a little bit of shower activity prior to the evening. Now, during the evening, here comes the front. There will be an area of low pressure that will swing up that front, and that could give rise to some of those storms, even some heavier rain too. And then a cool day for Saturday with some morning rain and some clouds. With that system, another 1 to 2 inches of rain certainly possible across the region here as we get into late Friday and Friday night and Saturday morning. But again, if you're heading out this evening, we are looking at temperatures in the 50s, 40s, and then 30s later on tonight. So just to refresh your memory, if you're heading out tonight, will be jacket weather. There's your 7-day forecast. 60s tomorrow, 72 Friday, 50 Saturday. Another frost or freeze is possible again Saturday night.
Star Lamar Peters will test the NBA draft waters. More on his decision next in sports.
WCDI Sports with Tom Ebel is brought to you by your local Ford dealers. Go further.
Shortly after the end of the women's college basketball season, a new era is underway for Ole Miss women's hoops. Yolette McPhee-McQuinn joins the Rebels as the 9th head coach in women's basketball history. Coach Yo led Jacksonville University to 3 postseason appearances in 5 seasons, including an NCAA tournament berth in 2016. McPhee-McQuinn also serves as head coach for the national team of her native Bahamas. She'll be formally introduced at 11:45 a.m. Friday in Oxford. Mississippi State sophomore guard Lamar Peters announces on his Twitter account that he will test the NBA draft waters. Peters will not hire an agent, meaning Peters can withdraw his name from the NBA draft by June 11th and return back to Mississippi State. The move is likely for NBA scouts to evaluate his skills and see if he's ready for the next level. Peters will join Ole Miss's Terrence Davis by making the decision to enter the NBA draft without hiring an agent. The Rebels are red hot, coming off a 5-2 week against 3 top 15 teams. Ole Miss travels to Memphis to take on the rival Tigers. Ole Miss has been winning in all sorts of ways to start 2018. Come from behind, holding off a rally, you name it. It's something very different from the Rebels squad from a year ago. Head coach Mike Bianco knows a certain adjective to describe his team so far on the season.
We're tough. You know, the guys handle it. They've won a lot of different types of games. They've won games where they've had to score. They've won games where they've had to defend and pitch. They've won games where we've fallen behind and came back. We've won where we had a lead and held on to it. To me, that's the thing that, my takeaway is they've shown a lot of toughness, a lot of resiliency that I think you need to have in our league.
So here's a look at the baseball coming up tonight. Both first pitches coming up at 6 p.m. Central Time. Ole Miss, number 3 in the country, according to D1Baseball.com. They'll be traveling to Memphis. A rivalry game. Ole Miss, as you see, 25-4. Memphis is 9-19, but Bianco also said the Rebels can't go in feeling great against a team like Memphis that's been struggling to start the year. It's a rivalry game. Anything can happen during a rivalry game. Also, Mississippi State at home inside the new dude taking on Southern. Houston's Denver McQuarrie gets his first start of the season. He'll be on the mound against Southern. Mississippi State in need of a must-win after a series loss to LSU this past weekend. Bulldogs just trying to get back to 500 on the season. Also, MUW's been busy on the coaching trail. They hired 2 new basketball coaches this year. They just finished the hiring of Brian Merkel. He'll become the first men's basketball coach ever for MUW athletics. And also earlier this week, Howard White Jr. became the women's basketball coach, so he'll attempt to revive a program that was very successful before ending 20 years ago.
Yeah, they won a national championship.
They did?
I believe, back in the 70s.
Owls.
That's right.
Hoot,
On that note, we're going to break. We'll be right back.
All right, here's our 7-day forecast. We're looking at some 60s tomorrow. Again, tonight, mid to low 30s, a frost or freeze possible. And we may see another chilly night Saturday night, mid to low 30s again. So we just cannot get rid of these cool nights. A little bit warmer Friday, some rain and storms here Friday evening, Saturday morning. I know there's a bunch of 5Ks going on Saturday morning.
Yeah.
It could be rather damp and dreary and wet. And let's hope for the best here, but it will be a little bit better on Sunday.
Maybe that system will kick out of here quicker than we think.
I will say it looks rather imposing there Saturday. Most of that rain should be in the morning. By the afternoon, things could be brighter, but it will be cool, though.
For our viewers who don't know, it is National Hug a News Person's Day.
It is.
Might I suggest National Give a News Person a Cupcake Day?
No.
It's a good way to celebrate.
Cupcake.
I do.
Thanks for joining us.